I think this is really cool. I messaged you after the first game. I said, dude, this might be the future of Apex. And when I say that, I mean the future of if we ever add more modes into the game.
Oh no, there's another squad attacking.
Let's get into the Winter Express guide. Henry, you said it in the behind the scenes. You said this was going to be a shorter episode. What happened? Because now we got everything to talk about all Winter Express, and I know we're just going to keep rolling with this.
Yeah, I don't know. Good thing we have a show because we definitely know how to talk.
Okay, give the listeners a little bit of a breakdown of Winter Express, slight refresh for anyone that maybe hasn't played in the past, and then we'll go into some of the features and some strategies I think that we tend to work with on a game to game basis.
Yeah, so Winter Express is really the only objective based mode in Apex.
Mm-hmm.
And that is awesome for so many reasons, just because it allows for different play styles to shine that maybe don't in
Mm-hmm.
other versions of Apex, even now that we have arenas as well. Centered around a train, narrated by Mirage himself.
Woo!
It's hilarious. It's got great music. Shay would probably tell you it's the greatest music of Apex history.
I play it year round.
That's right. But essentially, we kind of just wanted to break it down, go through everything
Mm-hmm.
that we feel about the game mode and what we found to be successful, and talk about the huge new update and change this year.
So essentially, we got 3v3v3 fights, and that's so fun. Fighting over the objective like the train. And since the launch of Winter Express, we've gotten one new wrinkle each season so far. Not each season, each kind of time it's recycled back in. This time around, we got two really interesting things that we think could be little hints at maybe what the future of Apex Legends is looking at. So now you pick your legend on the Legend Select screen, but additionally, you have the option to switch your legend in between deaths, which that is something essentially new in terms of when we break down Winter Express in the past, we've had to talk about team comps and stuff. You can shift your team comp game to game, match round to round if you want to at this point. I think that's pretty exciting. How do you feel about this feature being added?
I think that it's big. I mean, talking about just a major difference between arenas and this Winter Express format, not having a point system, just being able to be kind of versatile, I think really maximizes legend abilities in
Mm-hmm.
an Apex Legends game mode. But more so, I think the weapons and the classes are the big time here.
Yeah. So the other addition was that you now have 5 classes that you get to choose from and pick from each round if you lose. And the classes rotate each and every hour. They're essentially look to be built to be balanced in some way, shape, or form. You have the specialist, you have close quarters, you have assault, heavy, long range, and then each has 2 weapons kind of playing into that category per se. I think this is really cool. I messaged you after the first game. I said, dude, this might be the future of Apex. And when I say that, I mean the future of if we ever add more modes into the game, TDM style. We were curious how a select the class, pick a class loadout system was going to be balanced. Is it just going to turn into everyone using an R301? I think is something you told me. And this really solves that kind of question. Like you have 5 choices. You will try and decide which one you think is most powerful, but I like it. It's very essentially Battlefield esque in terms of pick your play style with your class and your legend at a time. There is some flexibility between them, but I think it works really well. What are your thoughts?
I love this for so many reasons. I think that number one, having it on such a fast rotation makes it really fresh so that you're not
Mm-hmm.
really kind of tunnel vision into one loadout for the entire duration of Winter Express. In previous years, essentially you've had different loadouts rotate every day between
Mm-hmm.
different legends. And that was fine. Honestly, we loved it, so can't really complain. This is better just because
Yes.
you have more options, you're making more fun choices, you can switch it up mid-game, which is a lot of fun,
Mm-hmm.
and you can make choices based off of the playstyle of your legend. A
Mm-hmm.
year ago, if you were a Gibraltar main, there was a day, maybe multiple days, where your class was a purple RE45. That does not really lend itself to Gibraltar's kit very well. This allows you to pick what works best for you, and that's pretty awesome. And it probably benefits nobody else better than Rampart. Just being able to make sure that
Yes.
you can have an LMG no matter what, every single game, every round.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It's just the quick customization of guns and legends within a game, round to round, provides such a replayability and freshness to this mode that I think is quite exciting, and it's what keeps people engaged in like non battle royale style games essentially. And so this is definitely a tool. I will not be surprised if this is kind of our first instance of seeing it, and later down the line we see another mode that incorporates something along these lines. To me, it makes a lot more sense than some sort of Call of Duty create a class system, if that was ever something that we thought was going to come to the games. It's cool. I think that's we can keep going on and on, but I think I'm just going to be, saying the same thing over and over
Yeah,
again, that I'm really excited about it, and it's been a ton of fun playing so far.
it's a lot of fun. Hard to say anything else than that.
Yeah. Some of the other changes, we got unlimited small heals, but they are on fast heals this time around. Henry, I know this one might hit you hard. No batteries. How are you feeling so far? This is a big adjustment for you and the hashtag bat life here at the third party.
Yeah, Battle Life for sure. I think that because there are three teams, this is one of the things we've always loved about Winter Express. It allows you to kind of play in the middle on the outside of the
Mm-hmm.
fight. So you have the objective of the train, but depending on where your health is, you can kind of retreat when necessary to heal up.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Not having bats always hurts, but I think slow heals and having fast works really well, just because then in between rounds, if you're still on the train or if you had to get off the train, you have enough time to heal up before you hit the next station. So all good there.
Mhm. It's really good. I think it's fast healing brings back this reminder of you can really heal mid combat, and that's something to keep in your mind while playing in terms of trying to pull it off, but also knowing that hey, if you hit somebody pretty good, if they're playing smart, there's a very good chance they're going to have 25 to 50 shields that you probably weren't expecting them to have when you push them. And that can make all the difference in terms of needing to hit a couple shots left or when you push, do you reload, all that kind of fun stuff. So keep it in mind. Fast heals were removed for a reason because it kind of led to some interesting gameplay. And that's kind of what the developers told us. So I never thought we were going to see it back in any way, shape, or form, but I do think it's quite interesting and it's enjoyable.
The other kind of thing about the loadouts this time around is you have three throwable slots,
Hmm.
which is pretty insane. You
Hmm.
think about nine throwables per team. That's
It's
pretty
wild.
nuts,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you multiply that out to three teams and you just have some incredibly explosive rounds
Hmm.
each and every time. So that's something that we definitely will have to recommend that you use. Use your grenades all the
Hmm.
time. Don't be, afraid to use them because they're really, really strong.
Yeah. When you're trying to take a train car from someone, and we haven't run into a lot of Watsons using their gens yet, you can definitely deal some damage and knock people out of those train cars with your grenades. So be strategic with them. Try and align them with your teammates, and you're gonna pack a serious punch. Let's talk about a little bit of the win conditions for this mode, though, and how you get there. Obviously, it's first to three captures. So capture the train, you have to sit on it for X amount of time, or it's gonna go to OT, and then you have to capture the center car, which is kind of out in the open. How do you feel about this objective style mode? I know we kind of mentioned it briefly at the beginning, but and we're obviously big Winter Express fans, but speak a little bit to the subjective play and why you think you might like it in Apex.
I really, really like it just because it keeps the fight very focused. You can play defensively and aggressively if you want to. You can completely like avoid the objective if you want to play really aggressively, but it you need to kind of keep an eye on the train because you don't want to get in a situation where you're playing aggressively, other team sweeps in, takes the objective, and you lost even though you killed, an entire other team. So you have to
Hmm.
kind of keep that in mind. But the scary thing about Winter Express. And sometimes you're just going to lose rounds. No matter how good you are, honestly,
Totally. Hmm.
you are going to lose rounds. And one of the ways you can easily lose a round is if one team just doesn't play the objective. If
Yeah.
one of the three teams doesn't play the objective at all, and you are, and you get your shields cracked and you have to back off, like you can't push up on a rampage, going off behind an amped
Hmm.
cover, um, you're going to lose just because you don't have that balance of the three teams fighting over an objective, and the countdown happens fast. So you can capture the train pretty quick.
It starts to go pretty dang quickly. Let's talk about some of the stations. Maybe any tips we want to share for each one potentially. We got a couple. I'll rattle through them. How about, and then give some high level stuff if you have any tips for specific ones. So we have derailment, we have freight yard, central station, Fool's Gulch, and refinery as these stations in rotation currently. And I think the ones that we will stick with. We were told when we were going to get a different one last season. I was kind of hoping secretly we were going to be playing on some different train stations, but it doesn't make a ton of sense from a map perspective. So I do get it and I understand, and I'm happy to have Winter Express as is.
All five of the stations are really different and really fun, honestly.
Hmm.
My least favorite is probably Fool's Gulch,
Yeah, that one's
just
tough.
because there's a lot of like sniping. You're kind of the train's in a low ground, and
Hmm.
it's difficult to not play the objective because you're just so far away from the train if you try to take
Yeah.
a fight outside of it. The other ones, though, are really fun, I think. It's hard for me to pick an absolute favorite.
Hmm.
I really like Refinery just because you're in the superstructure and you have a lot to move around on.
Yeah, totally. I think the one of the big tips I'll give for dominating certain stations and understanding where you're playing is maximizing height when you can. So looking at like Central Station and Refinery as examples. The problem with taking height a lot of times at some of these other spots is that you're too far away to then close in on the objective if need be. The other team falls off, kind of like we were mentioning, or you need to support a teammate that's on the train. Those two in specific, Refinery and Central Station, you actually can be sitting on height, looking down onto the train above the train, essentially. And so all it takes is a little drop down. And we've both been enjoying playing Valk to kind of maneuver up and down between those two spots. And so definitely a solid tip, I think, for winning a couple of those stations is maximizing the height and knowing that that's a quite popular strategy as well. So you're going to definitely be contested up on those roofs and stuff quite often.
Yeah, and derailment is almost the opposite of those two
Hmm.
stations because you have the underpass under the track. Not the most viable strategy to go hang out down there because
Man, he's
unless you
gassing me
have
because I
like
lost us a game there.
unless you have vertical mobility like Pathfinder, Horizon, or Valk, and you can get back up quickly, you're really further than you think from
Hmm.
the train. And so if the one of the enemy team starts capping it, you're safe, but you're far, far from the objective. So
Hmm.
that one's one to watch out for, and thinking about where do you want to take control of, if not the center car,
Yeah.
and making your decision based on the station.
We've talked about a couple tips throughout this kind of little guide slash breakdown. Other ones I kind of want to highlight and make sure we don't miss playing head glitches, the quote unquote head glitches on both sides of the train is really important. Predominantly on the roofs, you can kind of play the down slopes and or the center area on the back car in between the two little lips, essentially, to make yourself harder to hit and get off some good shots. Understanding the angles is really going to help you survive. I'm a big fan of playing the roofs on the trains, especially when one team already goes down. And so you only have to worry about one. You're not really going to get just shot from the other side. So maximizing those angles, understanding a little bit of those head glitches is kind of a nice little tool to succeed. Outside of that, though, you got anything else outside of just we got to continue reinforce? You got to throw nades.
Yeah, nades are big. On top of that, I think that picking a class that has a digital threat
Yeah.
is almost critical.
Mm-hmm.
Unless there's a really, really good loadout on an AR or an LMG, I think you want to prioritize at least having one of the weapons have a digital threat, even if it's a P2020, RE45, Mozambique, just because how crazy the mode can be. Even if you take away smoke, gas, fire, thermites, the objective icon for the center car really
Mm-hmm.
keeps your vision from looking from the front car to the back car. So having a digital threat seriously makes the difference and is something that we try to prioritize when we're picking a loadout.
Boom! Whole squad down.